Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sister Sister. I am so disappointed this is the last episode. Anyway, welcome back. How are you all? How are you feeling, Elle? It's our
I'm
last
good.
episode
I
of the
know it's like
season.
crazy. And I know like we've told people in the past that we pre-record, but please mind you, this is coming out in December. We are recording in August.
Yeah, we have a busy couple months ahead of us, so we like
Yeah.
to plan in advance. And season four is only going to be even more chef's kiss because we have some new things to talk to you guys about. We're not going to tell you what though until our live because we don't want to spoil the fun. So let's just say you may get to follow us on a new platform, but we're not going to say which just yet.
Yeah.
So.
So today's episode, after last week's very intense episode on star seeds being problematic, we're going to lighten things up a little bit. And we realized we never did an episode on understanding astrology. So this is our basics, nitty-gritty, what you're going to need to know. We are not going to be getting into the meanings of signs in this video. It will, well, like the actual like Gemini, Aries, that kind of thing. We're going to be getting into like the planets associated with your chart. We're going to be talking about different aspects, all that kind of stuff. Basically, the terminology that if you go to an astrology website and you've never been to one before and you have no idea what's going on, this is going to help you. And you also may learn something new even if you are pretty well versed in astrology.
You'll also learn why people ask you what your big three, six, four are, because if you're like me, you like to know what people have and you use that to your advantage because you might plot against them, like myself. Anyway, to get right to it, if you're new to astrology, there's a lot to learn. So let's get right into the birth chart versus your natal chart. So your birth chart is simply just a chart. It is a listed format that shows your planets, signs, houses, and what degrees the planets are in. This is a simple way to first learn your chart. A natal chart is a circular diagram that shows all the planets in each house and sign, and this is more of a visual representation. So if you were to log on to cafeastrology.com, which is my preferred astrology website, you put your birth time, your information, this and the third, and then it's going to give you a whole list and description of all your placements, starting from your sun all the way to the houses. So, and
You can
then,
also look up a natal chart on Cafe
yeah.
Astrology. I personally prefer using AstroSeek for the natal chart just because I feel like whenever you look it up, it gives you still like a lot of descriptions with things, and I feel like it explains it really well. So like it puts like the little images of what the planets and stuff are next to the description so that you can go up and like learn how to read the natal chart.
Yeah. But if you're simply looking about your birth chart and you want to just know what your placements are, Cafe Astrology, it also gives you your natal chart. But like Elle said, if you want to learn how to read a natal chart, go to the other site.
So now we're going to be talking about aspects. So when we do the astrology almanac, you'll hear terms like conjunct, square, trine, etc. Each of these is a different formation between the planets and how they connect to one another in the sky. So the conjunction. Planets and points that form a conjunction are energies that are united, they are blended, therefore they act together. The closer they are to conjunction, the more subjective these combined energies are. They don't stand alone and they have a difficult time truly acknowledging each other as distinct or separate. So, in effect, conjunctions can be like a blind spot. When the sun is in close conjunction to Neptune, for example, others may note the distinction, but it can be hard for the native to distinguish between their sense of individuality and their spiritual evasives or roundabout nature. The native may just assume naturally that others are much the same way. So conjunctions are when things are close together and they kind of like really affect each other's energy and are like more smushed together energy than they are separate energies when they're conjunct.
Next is the sextile. The sextile is often read quite like a trine, although there is a distinction connection between the two aspects. Sextiles, like trines, point to some talent and ease. However, sextiles have a little more oomph to them when while trines come so naturally to people that they might have to be reminded of their own talents and tendencies, sextiles are a little more overt to the native. These are the talents that people appreciate in themselves, and they may be more inclined to notice and work on these talents. Sextiles are communicative and relationship friendly aspects, and they point to energies that are capable of being directed. Sextiles reveal the potential for intelligent use of the energies.
And also, I just want to clarify that these definitions come, for this part, come straight from the Cafe Astrology website. So, the square. This aspect creates tension between the planets and points involved. Tension is necessary in order to stimulate action, but too much tension translates to stress. The planets involved in a square are acting at cross purposes. With squares, we may overdo and run into countless obstacles before we get it right. However, squares force us out of complacency and get the ball rolling. Squares are often more difficult when we are young, as these aspects force us to grow and learn our lessons.
Next is the trine. Planets and trines support each other. Trines by nature are accepting, and they allow us to accept others, ourselves, and situations for what they are. The talents that trines offer are a native so and make it so natural that they are almost unconscious. Often enough, natives don't truly appreciate the talents that these trines offer them, and they may try to not develop them. However, these talents are second nature and completely natural. So, for example, if a man has Venus trine Neptune, he may be poetic, romantic, or artistic, and he may easily accept his romantic partner for who they are. Another man with Venus square Neptune may have similar qualities and may possess a strong desire to accept his partner blindly, but doing so is not as natural as the first man. He has to work on it, and it might come against difficult situations in which he feels stooped or abused by his partners as a result of that acceptance.
Then we have the opposition. This is kind of the it takes two for like an expression for it, and the opposition is created by dividing a the circle by two. Therein lies the key to the meaning of this aspect, relationships. People with oppositions seek out others as if to mirror their own internal struggles. They learn about themselves through interactions with others. Very often, oppositions cause us to swing from one side to the other and we feel torn. Oppositions represent a state of divided loyalties, inner discontent, uncertainty, and insecurity can be a result. While a square is urgent and courageous, an opposition is unsure and wavering. When we use our oppositions correctly, we are more willing to consider the other side and we can be like adapt to negotiations on things. Now we're going to get into the planets and what each of them represent in your chart so you can better understand the planets.
So, let's start with the sun, which is a sign in the zodiac that you are born in, hence the season. So the sun sign is the first point of interest when looking at a birth chart, as this astrological element indicates where your personal energy comes from and what type of person you are, as well as how others perceive you. The sun sign can be seen as your personal filter for viewing the world, and it will determine how you make meaning and what you value, as well as what motivates or inspires you.
So now we'll get into the moon, which is the second most important point of significance when examining a natal chart for most people. This placement indicates what type of emotions and experiences are important to you, how much energy you have, your personal rhythms or cycles, as well as your deepest desires. Your moon sign can strongly indicate how you will react to events in your life and what you will do when faced with challenges as well.
Mercury rules communication and intellectual activity. It also represents the mind and also sensory perception. Everything you experience through your senses is governed by this planet's energy. Additionally, it governs how we think about ourselves and communicates with others about who we are as people.
Next, we have Venus, the planet of love. Venus is most commonly known for romance-related events such as marriage or how you express your affection and compassion, but it can also represent our social identity, money, and what we value and the things we derive pleasure from, such as our tastes, artistic inclinations, and hobbies.
Next is Mars. The red planet Mars is all about drive and energy, which can be physical or emotional. It represents passion, ambition, and competitiveness in everything we do, from day to day life to career goals. Our sexual desires are also under the red planet's influence. What kind of people do you find attractive? We look to Mars for answers.
Next, we have Jupiter. Jupiter stands for optimism and faith in ourselves as well as others. It governs our sense of justice and morality as the most expansive celestial body, coming only second to the sun. The gassy giant also represents expansion and growth in astrology, hence its association with travel and higher learning. It's the planet of abundance, generosity, and good luck. Jupiter is also known as the party planet because of its association with joy and pleasure.
Next is Saturn, the ring planet, which is all about restrictions, discipline, and responsibility. Saturn represents the limitations we place on ourselves or those placed on us by others and how much we can achieve in our daily lives, as well as pushing through those limits to get what we want out of life. This is the planet of karma. Many people dislike the energy of Saturn, but it brings structure to our lives. It reminds us about our commitments and the limits of time and matter, and its position by sign or house can reveal our fears and sense of duty.
Next, we have Uranus. The planet Uranus represents originality, independence, and freedom seeking. Its position in the natal chart reveals how we express our innovation and areas in life where we choose to conform by breaking the rules or going against established norms and order.
Next is Neptune, the planet known for its intense spirituality, creativity, and sensitivity to other people's feelings. It can also represent larger than life fantasies or the feeling of being in the dream state. When you want to know more about your dreams, spiritual inclinations, and where your inspiration comes from, or where it manifests, Neptune placements can provide answers.
And finally, rounding out the planets, we have Pluto, which is all about transformation, death, and rebirth. It represents a profound internal change that leads to new beginnings after periods of difficulty or loss. Also known as the god of the underworld, Pluto rules over subconscious forces. Its obsessive energies can be destructive if you give in to its desire and power for control.
Other placements. So now we're going to talk about your ascendant and or rising sign. So this is the third most crucial reference point in a birth chart because it indicates personality traits or qualities tied to your equal, basically how others perceive you. The ascendant is also sometimes referred to as the rising sign because it appears on the eastern horizon where you were born. The ascendant is the most personal of all the astrological placements and will govern how you interact with others, your appearance, how you project your self image, the kind of first impressions you leave on people, and your motivations in life. It will also indicate potential career paths and what type of partner you should look for to be happy.
So I'll do the next couple. First, we have the medium coeli, which is the MC or midheaven, which is a symbol of social status, career, reputation, honors, fame, success, authoritative personality, and it's known as the like archetypal father placement, so like your masculine energy. Then the lunar nodes, while they aren't planets or anything like that, but rather kind of like an astrology mathematical point, they're directly opposite of each other in your chart. It is said that your life's purpose is encoded between them in the line between the north node and south node. The south node indicates your comfort zone, your habitual place, while your north node shows life lessons and what you're striving for in this lifetime. Both lunar nodes are almost always retrograde whenever you are born. And then we have the Lilith sign. And I'll pass it back to you, Amaya. You can do Lilith and Chiron.
Yes. So Lilith is a fictional point, the second empty focal point of the elliptical orbit of the moon around the Earth. In mythology, Lilith refused to submit to Adam, rebelled against the connection between Adam and Eve, and decided to escape from the world of people and make a connection with Satan. In astrology, Lilith symbolizes either fascination or refusal of topics with which she is connected with, or he, but both the fascination or rejection of the given topics can eventually engulf the person and take them away from the human world. Next is Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid between Saturn and Uranus. Its orbit is very unusual and represents a bridge between material and spiritual world. According to mythology, Chiron was a great healer, wise teacher, and one of the immortal centaurs. Unfortunately, he was deadly injured by a poisonous arrow by Hercules, his favorite disciple. He was suffering in great pain, but he could not die. Finally, he gave up his immortality for the benefit of Prometheus, who was also suffering, and Chiron was sent to the underworld. In the underworld, Zeus had mercy for him and he raised him to be in heaven. In astrology, Chiron symbolizes our unhealable injuries and incurable trauma. However, if a person, instead of drowning in his own trauma or their trauma, is able to accept the trauma and help others who are also suffering and accept that suffering is a part of life, then Chiron may be the key to wisdom or even to some sort of initiation gate.
Yeah, the pronouns that you see associated with Chiron and Lilith, especially like on astrology websites when you're looking up the definition, is because Chiron was a male in Greek mythology and Lilith was female in mythology. So it just is usually what is associated with them. Then we have your chart ruler. Your chart ruler is found by looking at the planet that rules your rising sign. It's important to note that a few zodiac signs, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces, have two planetary rulers, a traditional and a modern ruler. Traditional astrology assigned planets before the discovery of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Modern astrology updated to assign these planets. You can look up both chart rulers if your rising falls in one of these signs. Mine does. The chart ruler leads the entire group, so the chart ruler really influences a lot about who you are as a person, your own personal life experiences that you'll have through your life, and also which planet and astrology dictate your life. Then we have the descendant. So the descendant, while the rising sign is attributed to you and your integration with the world, the descendant is much more concerned with others on the outside from you. It indicates what you most wish you were like or the person you'd like to see yourself become. It represents the qualities that you admire in others and can show the areas in life you yearn to grow. Um, Additionally, it's best used to indicate what kind of partner you need in your life in order for you to feel excited and pushed for growth. And finally, since this one's short, I'll just go ahead and read it, then we'll get into the houses. We have the IC. In astrology, the Imam Coli, which is Latin for bottom of the heavens, lies at the base of the zodiac wheel. It marks the start or cusp of your fourth house and represents the most private parts of your life. It signifies your home, family relationships, and early childhood development, including relationship to nurturing parental figures and any trauma you may endure in your youth.
Lots going on there. And
Yeah,
now
there's
let's
so many
go.
placements.
There really is. So, real quick, if you look at your chart, you might see that you have 12. Everyone has 12, and they all have a zodiac sign assigned to them. But you really, in actuality, have about 24 placements if you include your houses, which we'll go into next. So, the houses. The first house is commonly referred to as the house of self, which the cusp of the first house is on the home of the ascendant, the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the precise moment of one's birth. By thinking of this in terms of how sunrise and new beginnings, one begins to grasp the concepts of the first house. The new beginnings here are centered on the individual, the self, and the attendant voyage of discovery that define a person. Who are you? What will you become? How do you realize your best self? The first house speaks to the realizations of one's ultimate potential. This process of becoming a unique individual is one of the greatest contributions we make to the world in which we live.
Then we have the second house, which is commonly referred to as the house of possessions. While this speaks to that of which we own, it's not limited simply to tangible things. We own our feelings and emotions as well as our inner selves, abilities, needs, and wants. When we own up to something, we are in fact claiming ownership of our greatest possession, ourself.
Third house is commonly referred to as the house of communication. In this house, much of the communication is going on between the individual and those they hold close, brothers or sisters, as well as neighbors. While communication here can be both written and verbal, it also has a conscious quality to it. Think about the kindred spirits and mental connections. This serves to highlight the role of intelligence within the third house.
The fourth house is commonly referred to as the house of home. When we think of home, we think of that place where we put down our roots, we lay our foundation, and plant ourselves firmly into the earth, as it were. One day we will return to that very same earth. The fourth house brings things full circle by also addressing old age endings and our final resting place.
The fifth house is commonly referred to as the house of pleasure. Oftentimes, pleasure is the result of a creative act. The simple act of creating is essentially giving of oneself and making something, making another. Yes, the fifth house does speak to procreation in children, but it also addresses the creation of art and culture. The creative life is one from which we can derive much personal pleasure and self satisfaction. Do I like this? Does it make me feel good? Does it bring me pleasure? The answers therein are in the domain of the fifth house.
The sixth house is commonly referred to as the house of health. Implicit in maintaining good health is the ability to cope in the face of adversity, and this theme rings truest in the sixth house. As human beings, we naturally have shortcomings. What will we do with them? How will we react in the face of personal crisis? Crisis, illnesses, and reversals of fortune are all part of our earthly trek. How we confront these situations and deal with the lessons they invariably teach us helps to define the person we become.
The seventh house is commonly referred to as the house of partnership. Within this house, we see a shift away from the self toward another, which is a partner. By cooperating with and relating to another, we unite for the purpose of achieving something. Purpose is important to the seventh house. The act of accomplishing something great or small for the self, the partnership, and even society as a whole. In uniting with another, we also become a more valuable member of our world. We make a contribution, one small cog in the wheel of life. We have purpose, cooperation, and partnership help to expedite our purpose in life.
The eighth house is commonly referred to as the house of sex. This house delves into relationships, interactions with another, and how certain aspects of those interactions can take on a more communal nature. It speaks to what our relationships will bring us and how we can get the most out of them.
The ninth house is commonly referred to as the house of philosophy. In keeping with that theme, it's our search for meaning that is the focal point here. By virtue of exploring our world, we start to grasp everything that is available to us. It all boils down to understanding what we see and feel, and probing further in hopes of realizing the true meaning.
The 10th house is commonly referred to as the house of social status. It is about the place we have attained in our social or working career, grouping, and in society as a whole. Thanks status, the authority it conveys, and consequently, the role we take in our community. It also speaks to any promotions we receive, any fame we may have or will come to have, and the types of businesses and social activities in which we partake. With respect to achievement, this house focuses on how we see ourselves and how the community as a whole sees us and our efforts. Through this house, we work on manifesting ourselves.
The 11th house is commonly referred to as the house of friends. Through our friends, we find strength in numbers. We see the power of the collective, the group. Groups addressed by this house include clubs, organizations, social groups, networking organizations, and professional associations. The focus here is on the activities we undertake within these groups, how we make a difference, and as a result, how we grow and actualize our true selves. Further, it's the group by virtue of its collective strength, which helps to define what we do as individuals.
The 12th house is commonly referred to as the house of the unconscious, the house of the unseen realm of sorrow, of shadow, and of invisible enemies. The unconscious state can help engender our successes as well as assist us in coping with our failures. Success versus failure. Do we consciously confront our lives or subconsciously sweep things under the proverbial rug? This house might more aptly be called the house of reckoning since it is in the 12th that we review what we have been and done and decide where we go from there. Along with the unconscious musings, we also deliberate on strength and weaknesses that are hidden from public view. Now, we're going to speed round some other terminology that is just like things that we say a lot that you may not know what they mean, but we just kind of like have the definition. We're going to give you a basic definition. So, retrograde. This is when a planet appears to be turning backwards, rotating backwards from Earth. It tends to cause a lot of chaos depending on what the planet represents. A cusp is a person who is born either between like two zodiac signs. So, like one starts here and one ends here. They're born like right around that time. Or where your degrees are on your chart, you can also be born on a house cusp. A developed sign is a person who put in the work to healing themselves and is really working towards a better, like the best version of their signs within their different planets and houses. An undeveloped sign is someone who kind of shows through the like worst parts of their sign because they haven't done any healing.
Next, we will go right to our astrology almanac. Now, learning your new terminology, you can follow with us as we discuss what planets are going into different placements today.
Today, Mars retrograde begins in the sign of Leo until the end of February. Mars retrograde makes it more likely to get easily irritated, especially over small inconveniences. Take time for yourself by taking place in a hobby you got away from to help you de-stress and deal with upset. Tomorrow, Neptune will go direct. You may have felt like there's been a fog clouding your judgment and work over the last few months. As this retrograde ends, we come into a time of clearer thinking and actions. Venus also enters Aquarius tomorrow. This is a time to connect deeply with friends and may urge you to focus on the aspect of friendship when it comes to love. On the 8th, we have a first quarter moon in Pisces. It's important to make any big moves in silence over this next week. Focus on the creative projects in your life and wait to announce them until the time is right. Finally, on the 12th, Venus and Aquarius will oppose Mars and Leo. This is a time to focus on the passion in your relationships in a positive way and warns you to not get easily worked up over the small things.
And now we will move right into
Also, not a Mars and Mercury retrograde at the same time.
so the planets of chaos.
Oh my gosh, these cards are not wanting to work with me tonight. All right, let's see what the collective needs to know. Okay, up we have the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles is representative of needing a like time to work on creative projects, kind of focusing on being a little bit more meticulous with your creative meticulous with your creative works. I'm losing it. And really just kind of focusing on that like more joyous, creative, fun side of working, not necessarily like honed in on like the stuff that like you don't really like to do, kind of, and even it might be like taking time for a hobby and enjoying pleasures in that.
Okay, that's a cute little way to end off our season. To which we say, don't miss us too much. We'll still be on socials. We're still going to be chatting with you all. And don't forget to follow us on social media so you know when we're doing our live stream where you can ask us questions and we can talk a little more about this season, next season, and what we have for the future for you guys because we're not going anywhere. We're not doing that 2 year hiatus. Like, we promise we're not. So, Elle, do you have anything to add?
Um, I don't think so. I think this season has been eye-opening. I think we got into a lot of really fun topics and some really like deep nitty-gritty ones. I'm very like excited for season 4. I can't wait to see what we pull out of our sleeve next. And yeah, thank you guys for listening and following along with us on social media. And you'll be seeing more of my face even when we're on break because I will continue to do tarot time and the astrology almanac weekly.
Exactly. So, it's not like we'll be that far away. But thank you for tuning in. We love you guys, and we'll be back soon with more in 2025.
Bye, guys.